You are welcome to the Let's Talk About Jesus Ministry podcast, and my name is Emmanuel, and today we'll be talking about Jesus, but specifically we'll be basing our talk today on my testimony, as a Christian. How did I come to become a child of God? If you have been following this podcast, you would have heard me talk about Jesus Christ a lot in this podcast, about how much I love him. But the journey was not so smooth. There was a lot of temptations my way, a lot of struggles, and I would love to share this with you today, and I hope that you will learn one or two things from this testimony. So I grew up in a Christian family. My mom was a Christian, my dad was a Christian, they brought me up in the way of the Lord, but I still kept doing bad stuff. I still kept sinning, doing bad things. Many times I go on the altar call and I give my life to Christ, but I wasn't changed because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know what it meant to follow Jesus. My Christianity was based on my parents' experience as a Christian. So I still kept on lying, still kept on stealing, still kept on cursing, and so on and so forth. But when I came to Canada in 2014, the temptation increased. I found myself being more addicted to pornography much and all sorts. But my life was changed in 2015. That time I went to church, my church here in Canada, my current church right now. I went to church and it was a Bible study, and my pastor was preaching a topic titled "You Must Be Born Again." And at that moment I realized that I was not born again, that I based my Christian experience on my parents' experience. So I discovered that I needed to find God for myself. I needed to know this Jesus, not just to go to church every Sunday or walk in the choir, in the usher, or do God's work. I need to know this Jesus Christ personally for myself. So at that moment I said, Jesus Christ, I am struggling with all sorts of sins. Please help me, save me. I need to be born again. I need to be birthed afresh. So I gave my life to Christ, and then after that, the following Wednesday after that, I was filled with the Holy Spirit. That was the day that my life changed. I now got a new passion after Jesus. Passion. I was so passionate about Jesus Christ that I stopped some things that gave me pleasure. For example, I stopped watching The Walking Dead. I stopped playing video games. I stopped watching soccer games. I stopped playing even football games. Why? Because there was a new hunger for Jesus that literally, after I leave school and I get back home, I will lock my door and I'll just be fellowshipping with Jesus. I'll be praying, singing songs for hours. I will not leave my room because I'm in love. I have fallen in love with a person, not an idea now. I have fallen in love with a person. It was so good. The passion that I had for Jesus Christ turned into walks that I go on the streets of Winnipeg in the summertime to tell people about Jesus. I will not be afraid, I will not be shy, because why? They say bubbling in my spirit. People must hear about the love of Jesus. So I will keep going on the street. I think it was every single day. I will take the bus, I will walk the street, walk a long distance just to tell people about the love of God. So there was one day when I was coming back from my evangelism to people on the street, and I heard the voice of Jesus Christ clearly. He said, "Emmanuel, I want you to start a Christian club at your school." So God told me in the summertime, so I think 2 months time will be September. So I'll go back to school. So when I go back to school in October, I obeyed the Lord and I went to the office of my school to ask for permission to start a Christian club. And thanks be to God, the club was started and it lasted till when I graduated from the school. So I was in grade 10 when the club started. So grade 10, 11, 12, I was there for like 3 years when I was in the school. But when I was about to graduate, I had to find somebody to pass the baton to. So I found somebody, and this person ran the club as a student in the school. And even after I graduated from the school, I still was given, an entrance into the school to still run the club with that person that I trained to help the club to run. So the club lasts for 2 years extra after I have graduated. Now, the reason why the club right now is not currently on is because of COVID-19. Because when COVID-19 hit Winnipeg in 2020, we had to pull out from the school because of the lockdown and so on and so forth. And God used me to do many other works for His glory, and I'm very, very happy with that. So now let's go back to after I gave my life to Christ in 2015. So in 2015, 2016, I enjoyed God's presence beautifully. In 2017, that was when the whole growth started. So God saw that I was enjoying His presence, and He wanted me to grow. So what He did was that He took His presence away from me. So I was not able to, overcome sin the way I used to overcome sin before. I was not able to, pray like I used to pray before. It's like God was saying that, Emmanuel, I want to move you to a new level now. You have been enjoying this, loving with me for 2 years now. I want to move you to a new level. So it took away His presence for me, and then He said this to me. He said, "Behold the Lamb." That word "behold the Lamb" means look at the face of Jesus. So He opened a way for me in 2017 to see His face. And now all I have to do was to take my eyes off the physical environment and just behold the Lord. And the moment I look at Jesus, everything that I used to enjoy before in God's presence gets restored. The moment I take my eyes off Jesus, everything leaves. So now my life is now based on the face of Jesus. Now if I don't see His face, I start to die. So at that moment, the lustful desires, pornography, stealing, everything that I overcame before after I gave my life to Christ came back in full force. And the more I try to overcome it with my own strength, the more I fail. So I was in a very, very difficult point in my life. So 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, and now 22. This same thing, God is still saying, Emmanuel, behold the Lord. And now in 2022, right now in this point, I can tell you that I have understood I have understood the call, and I have been trained by God to be able to look at the face of Jesus. And whenever I look at the face of Jesus, everything is perfect. I start to pray more, fast more, sing more. My life become more fruitful because it is now based on Jesus Christ. So it took me years to understand this thing. It took me years to learn this lesson. So I can tell you now that I have grown so spiritually because Jesus Christ has taught me on how to make Him my foundation, make Him my goal. So now, in this point now, I am now waiting for the next instruction from God. Now, God, you have taught me for years and years about how to behold your face. God is saying now is this time for you to go to the next level, because it is a continual growth. God does not want me to stay on a particular point, So there is a level of poetry, or from let's talk about Jesus ministry, so many other things that God is using my life to do. So yeah, there are so many things that I love to share, but we don't really have much time to share them today. So I just want to say this is my testimony. I'm still growing. My life is built upon the face of Jesus. When I look at his face, I succeed. So if you would like to learn about some of the things that I have talked about today that you may not understand, some things like looking at the face of Jesus, surrender, everything that I have talked about today that you don't fully understand, if you go back to our previous podcast that I've done this month and last month as well, you're going to find amazing content to tell you some things that I have learned from working with Jesus Christ, about how I saw his face and how I am still looking at his face to this day. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I am really, really, really grateful. This is my testimony, and I believe I have more and more testimony to share as the Lord will walk with me continually. So tomorrow we will be releasing a new podcast. So come again tomorrow for a brand new podcast as we talk about Jesus and as you learn to be like him and follow him in all that he does. So thank you everybody for listening. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.